Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon here at Stolen Temple Center. My name is Mike Finkelstein, and I'd like to do a little introduction of Israel Emissary. I would like to welcome her. She is the Emissary from Israel to the Tucson Jewish community. She's going to be conducting a seminar today called Ask Anything. She is working through the Wine Crop Center, which is a partnership between Tucson J and the Jewish Philanthropies of Southern Arizona. A shliach, as I mentioned, is an emissary, is an individual sent by the Jewish Agency for Israel to work with communities abroad to promote Israeli culture, Jewish peoplehood, and education. Yuval has an impressive background in community work and management and comes to us with a wealth of experience in promoting Israeli culture. Her passion, coupled with her expertise in community engagement, will undoubtedly bring new perspectives and opportunities for our community. She shared a little bit with the local Jewish newspaper in Tucson when she came here back in August. She says, I grew up in the amazing Golan Heights in Israel. For those who aren't familiar with it or who have not visited Israel, just picture green hills above the Sea of Galilee and the stunning landscapes all around. It's like living in a postcard. But these days, she lives in Rosh Pinah, a small, charming town in the northern part of Israel, together with her partner, Nisei, who is here today, and created a sweet home there. When I'm not working, she says, I'm all about exploring and discovering new things. I have a great curiosity. I'm always eager to meet new people and hear incredible stories. Music, photography, and dancing are also some of my passions. Nikai and I both love the outdoors, hiking, rock climbing, and simply enjoying nature walks. Makes us incredibly happy. Yuval is going to be teaching us today, and I'd like to welcome her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a beautiful introduction. I couldn't say it better. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I was really waiting to meet you, your beautiful community. And just the drive up here was really nice and beautiful. So thank you again for the opportunity. As Mike said, my name is Yuval. I'm the new community department in Tucson. My husband and I got here at the end of August, so not a long time ago and not a long time before it all began. I always, when I start talking, I put my contact information out there as the first thing because I want people to know that I'm here to be a resource for your community. So this is the most important thing for me. And I want you to all know that you can reach to me whatever you need, and I'm here for you to be a resource. So the Ask Me Anything sessions I do now in different synagogues and organizations here in Tucson. And I got some questions from your community and I put them as a part of my presentation. So I'm going to present, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Israeli perspective those days, my personal story and our personal story as Israeli since October 7th and how it has shifted. And I also answered all of your questions in that presentation. So, and Nikai, thank you so much for helping me. Everyone can be always. So a little bit about myself, as you already heard, I grew up in the Golan Heights. This is my family. I'm a mix, as it's very common in Israel to be like a mix of both cultures. So my mother's family is from Romania and my father's family is from Morocco. And I experienced all kinds of food, music, and different stories and history growing up. I grew up in a moshav, which is an agricultural community, and my moshav was established by Ashkenazi community. So that was also like a whole new experience for me to learn about and understand, since my father's family were Moroccan, religious, living in Spain. So I got the best of all of the world. This is our wedding. This is my dad and me and our family. We got married in a Reform wedding in Israel, and it was a year and a half ago. Yeah. So yeah. When before I got here, I studied public policy, and I worked for local municipalities in Israel. I was the manager of a young adult center in the Golan, and Shlichut for me was all dream of mine. Being Shlichut means, first of all, to be a bridge for both Israel and here. It means that I do everything to bring to you Israel and its story, and also it's really important for me to share all of my new stories that I learned here and my new perspectives back to my friends in Israel, because it is so important to keep this connection strong and alive. And I think we can all agree that since October 2nd, that became even clearer than ever how important this connection is. And I believe that every person has their own journey to their connection with Israel. I don't think there is only one way to have a connection to Israel, or only one right way to that. And my job, my role is also to help each individual to find their own connection to Israel. And I think I can see that very clearly with the younger generation today, because the way that you and I maybe think about our connection to Israel or what Israel means to us, the younger generation thinks about it differently. And that's where I step in and try to help them find their own connection to Israel and how it looks like, and their Jewish identity. So, October 7th, I'm sure you all remember where you've been at the moment you heard about what is going on in Israel. So, for me, it was actually October 6th. Probably most of you also experienced it like that. We just got back from Shabbat dinner. We were hosted, the family here in Tucson hosted us, and we got back to our home. And I got a text saying that there are many missiles being shot into Israel. The alarms went off, and the guns went off in a lot of places in Israel. And I texted one of my friends, Liz, she's my best friend. I texted her because she lives next to Jerusalem, and I wanted to make sure she was okay, because the missiles were all over, to the center of Israel, to Tel Aviv, to Jerusalem. And at the beginning, it looked like kind of a normal, we kind of used to missiles being shot into Israel, unfortunately. But as the time passed, first of all, the amount of alarms and sirens was really unusual. And also, our videos of something looked like terrorists driving in roads inside Israel on the truck started to went on the TV. And the reporters were really confused. We watched the news, and all we could see was reporters, confused citizens of Kibbutzim in the south starting to call the news, the reporters, and asking for help, asking where is the IDF. And the whole situation looked very unfair, looked very chaotic, and there was a lot of uncertainty. And it seemed like even the reporters couldn't give any answer. I was texting with my best friend, and she told me they're okay, they're safe, they're in the safe room. And it's only sirens, nothing more. And later, I texted her again, because when we started hearing about the terrorist invading to Israel, I immediately thought about her husband, our friend Joel, because he works for the police special forces unit called the Amam, who have expertise with fighting against terror, releasing hostages, and things like that. And if there is anything that has to do with terror or terrorists, he must be worked by now. And she told me he already headed south. His team was one of the first teams to head south to the scene and the cities in the south. This guy and I stayed up all night, watching the news, feeling scared, watching the unknown, trying to get more information as we couldn't. And it seems like nobody could. And the citizens were sending more and more videos, photos, and calling the reporters. And again, we didn't hear anything from that yet. And we fell asleep around 4 again, and around 6 a.m. I got 20 missed calls from police who called me to tell me that Ron was dead. And this is a picture from my surprise birthday party that they did to me before we got here. And they came and all surprised me with their little boy Ed that was just born. And yeah, this is how my October 7th started. And this is just one story out of 1,200 more stories of people that were killed on that day only. And the work is still continues, and we still receive more soldiers. And at some point, I called Lil and I asked her that I want to come and visit her in Israel. I want to be with her in the Shiva. She asked me not to come because the first 2 weeks were so dangerous still in Israel and we're so forgot it. And she told me, and after 1 month, she called me and told me, you know what? I'm coming to Tucson. And that's a picture from Tucson. She was here for 1 month with her baby. And we hosted them in our house. And actually the amazing support that we got from the community here that donated baby stuff and toys and everything that we needed for the baby because we don't have kids. And our house in 1 day became like a baby house and it was amazing. And yeah, it was really hard, but it was also amazing that we could be there for her and to give her some space. But this is the journey that she's going to go through. Yeah, so a little bit about the war numbers. So now we know that on October 7th, around 3,000 terrorists invaded Israel, killed more than 1,200 people, at least 860 were civilians. More than 100,000 people were evacuated from Philistine and cities in the south and the north of Israel. So I don't know if you know, but at the first days of the war, all the Philistine and cities were evacuated from the borders, from Israel's borders. And I will talk a little bit more about the northern perspective because that's where I'm from. That's where my husband is from. And I want to give you the other side of the story that you might not heard of about what's happening in the northern border. Since October 2nd, more than 9,000 rockets were shot from Gaza, 2,000 from Lebanon, and 30 from Syria. So why was it important for me to put those numbers? Because when we look at the casualties on the Israeli side since October 7th, it seems almost like Hamas hasn't shot any rockets after that day, which is actually not true at all. Those numbers are amazing in the worst way possible. But I always tell people the only reason that we don't have more casualties is because we have the Iron Dome, because Israel has invested in shelters, stations, and the Iron Dome. If we didn't have all of that, we will be in a different place, completely different place. And there is, yeah, so I don't know if you're interested, let me know, because somebody asked me about like how is it possible of so many people to be killed on that day only. Have you heard of the October 7th map? Have you heard of that? I can give you just a glimpse of that. I can send you the website later. Can you click on that? I just wanna, on the October 7th map. No, no.
Maybe not.
Oh, okay.
You can try it. I wouldn't.
So okay, so it technically doesn't work currently, but I urge you to Google that. And this map is actually showing all of the maps that are happening in CDC that they would got. So you see all of the data envelopes and you see the dots, and every dot symbolize a person that was killed or kidnapped. And suddenly we can see how they worked on that day, how systematic it was. And it's terrible, but it is so important, and I use that to show people how that day actually looked like and how the things and sounds around Gaza were so hardly influenced that day, and the entire community for 30 years. We'll get there. A little bit about the hostages, because I got a question about that. So on October 7th, 257 hostages, people were taken hostage into Gaza. More than 30 of them were kids. We now know that they were targeting kids and babies and women because they're not hostage. This week, you probably heard that in IDF operations, 2 hostages were released. And until now, 112 live hostages have been released so far. 41 were murdered and are still being held captive. 134 more are still being held hostage in the Gaza Strip. If you do the math, you'll notice that there are 11 that are not mentioned here, but 11 bodies of hostages have been returned, not in here. So one of the questions that I got was, what's the difference between hostages and security Palestinian prisoners? So in Hebrew we say security prisoners. That's how we call it, or Palestinian prisoners. So first of all, just to understand this situation with the hostages, that could have been me. I could have been a hostage. The only reason I'm not a hostage is because I was here, I wasn't there, I wasn't in the exact party, festival, I wasn't staying in one of the kibbutzim on that day. That is the only reason. That could have been me. Those hostages that were taken, yes, some of them were soldiers, but those soldiers were taken from their bases on a ceasefire. Okay, there was no war on October 6th. They were not war prisoners. It was just in Hatoah, soldiers in pajamas in their bases. That was the situation of them being taken hostage. And the citizens were taken hostage with just kids and women and elderly soldiers that were on that day in their houses, in their beds, for no reason at all, taking hostage. And I'm still there in Gaza. And we know, because we hear testimonies from people who got back from there, that they are going through terrible conditions and violence and other things. And people who are Palestinian prisoners or security prisoners are people who were found to do any kind of security crime against the state of Israel. So it was a violent crime. It was trying to harm citizens, soldiers, to do any violent acts, and they go through court. You need to remember, Israel is a democratic state. We have courts. We cannot just put people in prison for nothing. We go through court. People say convicted instead of convicted. We go into prison. And those people in prison, you know, Israel has to act by the international law. So prisoners in prison, in the Israeli prison, getting food by as the international law says, they should get food, they get education, they get books, they get family visits, they get, good conditions. We now know that our hospitals didn't get the medicine that we're supposed to get. Of course, they don't get any family visits. They cannot communicate with the outer world. We know they don't get enough food, and they're treated badly. And those are two different situations that we cannot compare. So it's very important for us to also, you can see that the girls taken hostage. How they treated, how they were beaten, only girls, younger than me, 19-year-old girls. A little bit about the northern border. So you can see the upper blue dot over there, it's Kibbutz Manara, where in time my husband grew up. Beautiful kibbutz. You can see the salon. It snows in winter. Beautiful community, small community, very resilient. I've been there since 43. And been through all of the Israel wars on the border. Since I was a little girl, I knew about this organization called Hezbollah. You probably heard of it, or maybe not. Hezbollah is a terror organization located in southern Lebanon. I remember them since I was a little kid because they were in my bar mitzvah. Because of the Second Lebanon War, I had a bar mitzvah on that war and couldn't do it because they shut me out into my own shop. And now, not a lot of people know that since October 7th, they actually participate in this war. It's not really, people don't really talk about that. You won't see it on the media here, not so much even on the media in Israel. And this week only, this soldier, Oren Salah Benjo, was killed from missile shot from Hezbollah into Sfat. 8 people were hurt and 2 were seriously hurt as rocket damage hit Sfat and Kiryat Shmona. Thank you. This is some nice pictures and videos from Kibbutz Manara in this most beautiful day. This is me in the snow. I was very excited because where I grew up in the Golan, grew up in the south, that we don't get any snow there. And this is the Sermon. That's such a beautiful view. And this is Kibbutz Manara. And I put this picture because I wanted to show you how close it is to the border with Lebanon. So can you see that brown kind of road up there? This is the border. This is the border, and this is how close it is to the kibbutz. So when you get inside the kibbutz, you can actually see the Lebanese houses as they were your neighbors. And I remember every time that I went there to visit my husband's family, I asked them, how are you not afraid to live here so close to the border? And that was, I'm talking prior to October 7th. And they always told me, such a beautiful place, we feel safe here, we have the most powerful IEF, we have a very solid border, we have no reason to be afraid. And I remember, talking to my guy's friends, and one of them told me, I used to hear them digging tunnels under my house. And we were all looking at him like he was some kind of crazy person. What is he talking about? This is not happening in the north. But guess what? A few years ago, the Israeli government actually discovered that there are tunnels that Hezbollah did into kibbutzim and moshavim in the northern border from Lebanon to Israel. And they destroyed, the IDF destroyed all the tunnels that they found. But this is something that actually not a lot of people know that happened also in the north. And I think that as a person that also, I didn't grow up so close to the border as Kibbutz Manara, but also I was always growing up knowing that my closest neighbors, that I lived closer to Syria than to Tel Aviv. And we all have this thought in the back of our mind that one day, maybe in our worst nightmares, terrorists can enter Israel and we could experience that kind of attack. But none of us really believe that something like that could happen. We all trust the IDF, we all trust our government, we all trust our borders. And then October 7th happened. And we cannot unsee that. We cannot unsee about that. We know that something like that happened. So on the first week of the war, all of the kibbutzim, moshavim, and cities on the borders were evacuated, and they are evacuated until now. Besides families can go back to Manala yet. And since October 7th, 50% of Manala's houses were destroyed. You don't hear that. And you know what? It's lucky that nobody's there, but still, it's people's homes. You could see in one of the videos that Hezbollah released that they target, our friends' homes. You can see that. And now people all around, in the south, in the north, asking themselves, when do we go back and what will happen that will make us feel safe in order to go back? Because people are not willing anymore to be willing to risk their lives and waiting for a miracle to happen. People need to know that they're safe. People need to know that October 2nd will never happen again and will never happen to anyone in Israel. And I think I will pass this video, but this is a video taken by the security squad of Kibbutz Manara. Do you want to see it or? It should work, okay.
גם 5 שבועות, נלחמנו לכל דבר. מנעה, אינטרסים, אדומות, רחפנים, פיצוצים, יצורות חדירה, הכל. כיתת כוננות למעשה נותנת את המענה הראשוני הראשוני. אנחנו מוקפצים, דיבורים, שריפות, סגירת מעגלים, נלחם על הבית. על הבית שלי, על הבית של המשפחות שלי, על הבית של החברים הכי טובים שלי, גן ילדים של הילדים שלי. נחת של קרונים, עושה פה בתוך הבית. פגיעות ישירות יש 5-6, להערכתי יש משהו כמו 25 יחידות שנזרוקו ברמות ואחרות, בין אם זה רק סופיות ובין אז זה בכלל. לקחתי מעט הרבים, אפשר להתחשב. זה הרבה עבודה לשקם. עכשיו, למען לא משקם. עכשיו נכנסנו מהצד גם בפינה השנייה של הבנייה. בצד השני. גם עכשיו, לא ניצחנו.
One of our friends,
בואו נתחיל לכיוון הבית של ההורים, לחצר, מה שנשאר. פה חתמנו 5 מנטטים, באנו לכבות את השרפה, שכבתי פה בדשא ועפתי באוויר. זה היה האוטו שלה והאוטו של העבודה שלו. למרות הכל, הדבר שהכי מעניין את אבא זה הגיל שלו, שהם עוד חיים. אתה מכיר את זה עלייה משם? מה הכי חשוב עליו? הבנתי, אוקיי. זה אלבום את אומרת, נכון? מאוד מאוד חשוב. אמרתי לגברת שגרה פה, מעט ביום כיפור, והדבר הציבור שמעניין אותה, זה התמונות שבאות אותה להשאיר. לא יודע אם אני כל כך מחפש אותו, אבל לא יצא לי. אני אתעסק לו. זה האלבום שלי, זה האלבום אנחנו, אני חושב לכל האלבום.
שרה הייתה מטפלת בי, הייתה צורקת אותה משפט, יש תרגומים.
The reason I show this video is not to depress you. It's just to show a different perspective that we don't usually see, and this is the current reality that we're facing. And when people ask me about the day after, they need to understand that we are currently in war, also in the northern border. And it is not declared as official war, but this is the situation, this is what's happening. And people in Israel, even though it's not officially condemned by the government, are talking about the chances to have a war in the north as well after the war in Gaza. And yeah. And somebody asked me about what Israel is thinking about now, what is the current state of mind of Israelis, how is the Israeli society shifted since October 7th. So we touched we spoke about some of those things, but I want to dive deeper into those. So I think on October 7th, a lot of the Israelis experienced loss of security. And this is something that we're rebuilding now. And I showed you also what is going on in the north, and people who are really missing their houses and are currently living in hotels, and it's not very ideal, even though hotel sounds nice. Just understanding about living in one family of, 5 people in one hotel room sounds crazy and upsetting. And we had to rebuild our educational system because people cannot go to the original schools, and we had to rebuild a lot of the things. There's a lot of unknown still going on. We are starting to get back to normal in a way. People who were reserved are now starting to go back to their families and wives and kids. And this is something that the people in Israel are now talking about. How can we help those people go back to their normal lives after being in the war? After seeing hard things, difficult things, after losing their friends? How can they go back to their kids and wives? And after we all experience a collective trauma, how can we all go back to normal? This is something that if people are talking about, we can feel like it's a positive thing, because Israel has been through many wars and through many collective traumas, but it's not, I don't remember it being so spoken about how we can help those people go back to normal, and how can we support each other through therapy and things like that. So you've probably seen that there are a lot of protests now going on in Israel. I think this is also something that has shifted. We all remember that on October 6th, the Israeli society was pretty divided. There were the protests of the judicial reform, and it wasn't the best days of the Israeli society, let's say. But after October 7th, it's like nothing of that happened. Everybody came together, fought side by side, helped each other. The civil society in Israel acted in the most amazing ways possible, showing so much resilience and creativity. And in the first 2 weeks of the war, we didn't see much of the government reacting to what was going on. Who really reacted in the first 2 weeks were civil society. Civil initiative, from finding volunteers to go to funerals, to trying to identify people who were missing with AI. And at the beginning of the war, it felt like we're on all on the same page, we're all united, and we are still united. We are still there, but we do kind of starting to see more disagreement now about, for example, I can use the hostages deal or the hostages issue. We all agree that they should come back home and that Israel has to do anything to bring them back. But now with the process, you can see, if I could divide it to like, let's say, two main groups, it would be the people who say we have to bring back the hostages in any cost, and the other group says not in any cost. They both agree that the hostages should be released, but maybe on the way they don't agree. And I think that we're starting to see more of that. People are still understanding it's important for us to be united because there is still a sense of urgency, there's still a sense of war going on, but also people are expressing different ideas, expressing different opinions. A little bit about Arab Israelis, and that also this. So before I start to talk about that, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So when we say Arab Israelis, or when we say Palestinians, what do we mean? Because there are many different groups, and it's important to notice that there are different. So first of all, when we talk about Arab Israelis or Arab Palestinians that have Israeli ID, inside the borders of Israel, there are Arab Israeli Palestinians, however you call them, that have Israeli ID. There are Israeli citizens that have all the rights, just like me. Just like me, nothing is different. And a lot of them actually, since October 7th, have experienced that they identify more as Israelis now than Palestinians. And there could be many reasons to that. One is that when Hamas attacked, they didn't care if they are attacking Muslims, Christians, Jewish, as long as they attacked Israelis, they took Muslim hostages, they murdered Bedouins, they didn't care. And I think that a lot of Arab Israelis that live inside Israel understood that and felt like we have kind of the same enemy now in a way. And this is something very interesting that has happened in the Israeli society. Because on October 7th, in the first 24 hours, with all the uncertainty and shock, a lot of people felt like it's Yom Kippur all over again. What's happening now? All of the Arab countries are going to attack us. Maybe Palestinians living inside Israel are going to attack us. But none of that happened. And actually, we have a lot of stories of Arab Israelis going to rescue people from death. Just very shortly, when people say Palestinians, it's important to understand that there are people who live inside Israel and are Israeli citizens. We have people who live in East Jerusalem and have a special status called permanent citizens. Means they're not citizens of Israel, but they also got the right to vote in the Jerusalem municipality. We have Palestinians living in Gaza, who has nothing to do with Israel. Israel withdrew out of Gaza in 2005. And we have Palestinians living in the West Bank. And those are different groups. They have different history. They have different opinions. They have different characteristics. I want to leave some time for questions. So let's talk a little bit about hope. So somebody also asked me about Aliyah. So since October 7th, 6,500 people have immigrated to Israel, and France, for example, has increased 300% in Jews wanting to move to Israel. Yes. So we do see that the war has affected, we know that already, that wars are affecting Aliyah to Israel, but we can see that clearly now, especially in Europe. We talked a little bit about the Arab Israelis and how the Israeli society has came together since October 7th, and I think this is a really reason for hope. And we all know the Israeli Jewish history we all know that we face the most difficult challenges already. And we know how resilient the Jewish people are and Israelis and how this connection means a lot. I was just talking in a Bethlehem, the other Bethlehem, yesterday, and one thing that I told them is that I feel like here in Tucson, I got to meet the other half of my family that I've never knew. And I mean it. Because it was so hard to be here on October 7th, far away from my family and friends, feeling physically the pain in my body, but then getting all of this before, the warm hug, the worry that so many people in the community in Tucson experience, I felt like I found my other half of my family. And I understood how meaningful my role is and how important this connection is. And I know that together, we can overcome this if we only stay united. And this is a moment in time that, you know, my kids are going to ask me, what did I do in that moment in history? And I know this is a moment for all of us to come together and to act, and to ask ourselves, what did we do on that moment? And what can we do? So first of all, of course, we have the fundraising that we do at the Federation. That 100% of it goes to Israel on the ground. We need to speak. We need to talk about releasing the hostages. We need to stand with Israel, not forgetting that Israel is still in war. Israel needs to stand with the Jewish people outside of Israel. We have to be active. I think the city council, have you heard of that? What was there? And no, so a lot of city councils around the country are now talking or proposing to call for ceasefire. And the Jewish community here in Tucson arranged a group to go to our city council and to speak out and to talk about what ceasefire actually means, or why it shouldn't be a matter of a city council, and it's only dividing the community. So this is also something that being active, engaging in our local community, and you know, talking against anti-Semitism. What happened this week with Matisiao concert? Have you heard of that? But Matisiao, you know Matisiao, the musician? Okay, so 2 words about that. So Matisiao is a Jewish musician. He talked very proudly about his connection and love to Israel. He was supposed to perform here in Tucson, and loud voices were speaking against that. Reached out to the theater, asked to cancel it, say they would protest, and there is now an argument of like, what was the reason, but the end result was that the theater decided to cancel the concert. And Matisiao decided to make a free concert in a different location that we got for free, yeah. And we all went there. I was there. We were there, supporting Matisiao, supporting our Jewish community. So this is called being active, being creative, being resilient, not giving up, not letting anyone from the outside say what we should do or shouldn't, what we should have or shouldn't. And Israel's mission, I wrote it here because also I got this as a question, and also people asking about that earlier here. So we are, the Israel Center is actually arranging a mission to Israel. This is going to be a very unique short mission to Israel, which will be mostly volunteering and supporting in the needs of the war, which will be probably agriculture and food packing. It will be a short mission, 5 days on the ground. And yes, it will be to support the needs of here and now, to bear witness, to see one of the people in the town as well, and to meet survivors and hospital families, and to show them our solidarity and support. And I also want to encourage you, next week, we're bringing a survivor from Kibbutz Gaza. He's going to be here in person. He's going to share his story. And I don't remember using the word survivor for any reason other than Holocaust survivor. And those people have been through kind of a second Holocaust from what they shared from the story, terrible stories. And our duty is to listen to those stories and to pass them forward. So I think I'll open maybe, oh, and I put here because somebody asked me about recommended Israeli resources. So you can take a picture of that, but not all of the media here is always showing you everything that I think you should know. So first of all, the IDF spokesperson, has a great website if you're interested in what is going on a daily basis on the war. And it's in English, everything is in English. One is that in Israel newspaper, Times of Israel, of course you know, I-24, and of course our newsletter, we try to put them all of the opportunities, the relevant programs, to engage, to support, all of the most important things. So I would like to hear now if you have any more questions. And thank you for listening. Yes.
Excellent. That's been website. All Israel news. You know, what information I get from a lot of the Israel stuff.
Okay. I didn't know the website. How do you call it?
All Israel news.
All around it. Okay, that's great. I will send this out. Yes.
I assume you reached out to the presentation, the Tucson area with the non-Jewish community.
What's been their response?
So actually, I haven't been invited to any of the non-Jewish communities here in Tucson. I would love to speak also to non-Jewish communities, and I haven't been actively doing it yet because I've seen how much need there is inside the Jewish community. And you see, this is the first time I'm meeting you. And also a lot of other organizations and synagogues have this really urgent need. And I don't know how you feel around this war, but I know that in some communities, they were struggling and they needed somebody to guide them through this challenging time, to show them the Israeli perspective, to help them just navigate through their challenges. And I was there firstly for our Jewish community, but I'm very willing to also go outside, but I haven't done it yet. Yeah. And again, it's not because it's not important, but just because the urgent needs that we got from the community was from inside the community of individuals that were struggling and adults that were struggling in some communities that, you know, were struggling with what is going on in the current war. And I'm all about helping and being there for our community. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you sharing. I want to ask you about the two recent incidences in Tucson. First about the city council issue. Last Thursday evening, I was at a meeting in Tucson on something else, and I had a conversation with someone who referenced it and said it would come up pretty quickly in front of the city council. I don't know how that turned out. Did the city council adopt an anti-Israel resolution or not?
So from what I know, no, and they have another meeting, or they already had this week. And I don't know because they changed the date, and I'm sorry that I'm not familiar with this specific detail. But they were supposed to have another meeting that I'm not sure when it's gonna be, to talk, to discuss about this situation. But they haven't come into any resolution yet or any decision.
Thank you. Well, what I heard was there were more than 200
Yes,
Hamas.
their voice was loud.
There's a louder voice
Yes.
for a relatively smaller community group.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
Their voice was louder. Are you getting the emails from the Federation? Are you I started to send you all of the information that I sent to subscribe to the new task force of fighting anti-Semitism that the federation has that are going to talk in those city councils. And if you want to be a part of that, if you want to get more details about exactly what happened, what are we planning to say? Yeah.
Okay, so that was one thing. The other,
Yeah.
what was the theater where the presentation was supposed to have occurred?
No, the auto. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We also.
Yeah, that's
That's important. to know.
yeah.
All right, the last thing I want to share is an idea based on this. I had in fact, I'm working on something, actually a little subcommittee here of our synagogue on a stand with Israel. And what we do is we try to turn out at least one letter to an editor of whatever paper a week in support of Israel and against anti-Semitism. So,
Beautiful.
but one of the things that I haven't seen or heard of yet are resolutions introduced before city councils, county councils that are supportive of Israel. And it's right for self-defense. And a resolution that would counter those that support Hamas and terrorists in that as a formal, like, yeah, well.
So again, the formal, task force that we have is the one in the federation, the anti-Semitism task force. And they are, again, they were the group that organized to have some people, it was really quick. They organized it really quickly to go to the city council and speak there. I agree, the pro-Palestinian voices were louder, but it is formal. It is, something that the federation is now, just now established, it is now growing. And I would be very happy to give you more information about that. And
Well, you mentioned there is a website, they have,
they have a newsletter, they have a website, you can read all about it. In the Federation of Youth Philanthropy of Southern Arizona. And yes, they are formally established that. And
very good. So, often the best defense is good offense. And so, as opposed to city council just doing but one force, but in other words, of something that supports Israel and they can be there.
yeah, hopefully we can get more people to come to the next city council. What is that?
That would really surprise me if that happened. Because the chair, I'm sorry, this is a digression, but this is important for people to know.
Yeah.
The chair,
Yeah,
can you put that on the mic? So the chairperson of the FEMA County Board of Supervisors is Adelina Grijalva. Now, many of you may know the name Grijalva. Grijalva is a congressman here in part of FEMA County, Santa Cruz County area, who is part of the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, the so-called squad, this leftist group. His daughter is the chair, and I doubt if she would have seen that go through. So we just want to verify that, because I can't see that happening.
I have a question, for Israelis like you who are living here, as well as those over in Israel who may be aware of what's happening on the national front in the United States. It's been very frustrating to me following the national news here. For quite a while, there's been an effort to get some sort of funding passed that would support Ukraine, that would support Israel, that would support Taiwan. And there's a large segment of our U.S. Congress who have said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to consider it unless you put together some sort of border security pact. So over the last year or so, there's been a bipartisan effort including a senator from Arizona, as well as some Republican senators, put something together. And presented that, and the U.S. House of Representatives refused to even consider it. So we're back to square one. And meantime, you know, the funding is drying up both for Ukraine as well as for continued support to Israel. So I'm not sure if that's on your end, you're all cognizant of that.
So what is the question?
Well, no,
Are we
I'm just,
aware of
I'm aware, I wanted to know if you're aware of it, you know, a
Yes.
lot of US citizens are in support, wanting to support Israel's efforts, send funding through Congress, through the United States government, but it seems like we're stymied by our own internal squabbles.
So what is happening here is really covered in the Israeli media as well. Because it relates to us, it relates to Israel, and we do care about the Jewish communities abroad. And this is something that the Israeli media covers. This is something that you can see in the Israeli media. It's not going very into like details of like the local politics, but it still covers it. We still are aware of those things going on in the Congress. I can share with you that I think, again, as I said before, my role as a shlicha is also to be a bridge to the other side, meaning to give it, for example, the Matisial concert and what happened with that. I share the story immediately with my friends in Israel because I felt like this is something, you know, I'm not used to being a minority, and I don't know how it feels like, and I just now get this perspective. And seeing all of the difficulties and the challenges, I think the challenges that we face in Israel, that we face here are different and similar. And also, I feel like it's so important for us back in Israel to understand those challenges. So I can tell you that for me also as a shlicha, I do my best to give that information also to my friends and family in Israel. Even when I finish here my 2-3 years, when I go back to Israel, I'll be sure to make this voice to be loud and clear, to continue and bring the Jewish perspectives from all around the world to Israel. But again, we are aware of that, but I think we can do better. And this is also where my role comes in.
So first of all, it's great to have you guys here in this far corner of the world. So thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
My question is, so there's been an increase in immigration to Israel, especially France, it's at 300%, and we're seeing the Islamization of Europe, so you see what the right is. But my question is, how's the housing situation in Israel will absorb this increase in immigration?
So from what we know, the Aliyah minister is now having a campaign to increase the Aliyah, to ask people to come to Israel. And again, the housing problem in Israel that we know as young people is usually in the center of Israel, and currently what's going on in the let's say the periphery of the center is that, for example, Kalish, if you're familiar with this place, just like places that I would call the periphery, like outside of Tel Aviv, there are a lot of housing opportunities. The only problem I think that we experience as young people is that, especially in the center of Israel, the prices are really high. And, you know, my family used to have like a house and a garden in the Golan Heights. Maybe that over the years wouldn't look like that. Maybe it will be, I don't know, buildings. But again, I don't think Israel is now facing a problem of housing, specifically with I don't think the amount of people that will make Aliyah is, you know, too much for the Israeli government to handle. But this is a great question. And I also ask myself, like, in the situation of war, when a lot of people are evacuated, how is that going to look like? where are they gonna put them? This is also a question that I ask myself. But just the amount of people that make Aliyah is not too heavy for the country to handle in the housing issue.
You and the Shifa help people individually find a place and find their way.
So I per se not doing Aliyah, but I go hand to hand with people that want to know more about that. For example, I had just a person from the community who wanted to do the shop for them to go back to be a citizen in Israel. And even I'm not like the organization that is doing the paperwork and all that. I met with her every week. I helped her to go through the papers. I was there emotionally, personally supporting her, giving her some advice about like cities and other places that maybe she wants to consider living. So yes, I go and I help people to make this process not officially, because again, I'm not responsible for the Aliyah. The Jewish agency has like different branches that do that, but I'm here to answer all of the questions, to help people go through that, and yes.
Will the JCC, advertise the survivors that come in the street or?
So we already started marketing it, but I can give you, more information if you want. Yes.
Good question.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike. So you have Hamas is Islamic resistance movement.
Yeah.
And it's a fundamentalist radical Islamic. And then you have Hezbollah, part of God. It's another Islamic fundamentalist. And then, of course, imported by Iran.
Yeah.
Then you have Islamic Jihad, another. So for today's Israeli population, do they consider this war a war against Palestinian territory, or is it really a war against Islamic fundamentalism?
That's a great question. I think it depends who you ask inside the Israeli society. I don't think everybody are going to give you the same answer. I can tell you that a lot of Arab Israelis that are pro-Israel, Yusuf Kadari, you heard of them, are speaking very clearly about that, and I agree with him. That as Israelis, we have Arab Israelis living with us, and they're Muslims. We have to be very careful not to put all of that under like the Muslim umbrella, the Islam umbrella. And he speaks very clearly about that as somebody who was in the military. He was in the IDF. And he talks very clearly about that a lot of people putting all of this war under like fighting Islam or something like that and trying to show us that this is not the case and that we should not say that because this is very dangerous to the Israeli society as well. But I'm sure that you'll hear parts of the Israeli society telling that we are fighting the Islam or whatever. I personally, I try to, when I talk about that, as you already seen, I'm trying to talk about the terror groups and not the people and not the communities and not God as a whole. Trying to talk about Hamas, trying to talk about Hezbollah. And we all are aware now that when we talk about Gaza and what is going on there, it is not very easy. It's not black and white. It's not like innocent people and then there are the warriors. We now know that UNRWA, they're not what we thought they were. And they were supposed to, oh yeah, oh you, yeah, but you know what, but the world. And this is just one example of how, you know, people ask me, but how do the IDF start getting so many civilians? And I'm saying, first of all, if you look at wars in general, in urban places, the ratio of the people who are getting killed now who are civils is very, very small if you compare it to other wars. And I'm sorry, it sounds very cold and like numbers. I'm very sad to see every innocent person that is being killed. And I'm not just saying that to say that I said it. I really, this is terrible. And war is ugly and it's not a beautiful thing. And I wish there were no wars in the world. But the current situation in Gaza, what other options do we have? Do we want October 7th to happen again? So, yeah. I think, I don't know how we are with the time, but I can stay here to answer more of your questions, but I don't want you to. Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, like Yuval said, she is based in Tucson, so you're only an email away. And, you know, we hope that we can continue this discussion. And in fact, finding out that you're a fellow musician, we'd like to have that as well. But, you know, we hope that you'll come back perhaps for you and the time for a bagel breakfast or some other event and get to know the rest of our wonderful thriving community down here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to meet you, to listen to your questions, to have this interesting, meaningful conversation. And I'm here always. I'm gonna be here for the next 2 to 3 years. And I also have my card here if you want to take my card to reach out to me whenever you want. And I encourage you can send me an email if you want to get our newsletter so you know about the different events that we have, the program with the survivor, the city council, and all of those interesting, important things that are happening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.